Kagome is quickly walking in the direction of our hotel. What's wrong now? I caught up and started walking alongside her. Nico-san, you aren't helping at all. You just keep talking nonsense. Kagome is spitting out these words without even looking at me. I don't know what to do. Are you happy now? I just wanted to support you if that's a crime. It's not a crime. What's wrong then? I want to be alone for now. I understand you have it hard and I respect your right to personal space, but this really isn't the time for it. We have to stay together and you know that yourself. Kagome said nothing and just quickened her pace. We reached the hotel without saying a word. She clearly didn't want to talk, and I simply didn't know what else I could say. It seemed that just yesterday, Kagome had been full of hope. Now she was drowning in black melancholy. No matter how I tried, I couldn't find how I was to blame for any of this. October would be over in a day and a half. We were walking through a Tokyo drowning in autumn, and I was looking at the setting sun, feeling it become more and more like winter. And it wasn't even about the fact that it was getting colder in the city. The sun was lighting the earth at a different angle. The shadows were getting longer, and life was becoming slower and more idle. I suddenly wanted to hibernate for half a year or so, to wake up in spring and joyfully discover that Kobayashi Corporation no longer cared about us. Kagome's father had been released, and nothing stood between me and Kagome. However, some doubts crawled in with those thoughts. Were we even a good match for each other? You could say all you want the opposites attract, but north remains north and south remains south. One second we felt good together, and the next I couldn't understand Kagome at all, as if she'd been replaced by her evil twin sister. We were walking next to each other, but at the same time, we were a world apart. Kagome didn't make dinner. She didn't do anything at all. She spent the entire evening staring out the window. It was the sort of thing that would have made me howl with boredom in 10 minutes flat, but Kagome seemed to be okay with it. Well, shall we talk, maybe? Fine. I won't spin up the old tape again. Sit around and do nothing, but at least talk to me. Kagome, if I don't know what I've done wrong, I can't fix it. Maybe calling her by her name played its role. Kagome finally turned to me. Nobody's at fault here, Nico-san. Why does it seem to me that you don't really think that? She sighed and turned back to the window. You've been living in Japan for a while, Nico-san. You must understand that the people of the East are more accepting of the inevitability of fate. Fate. I smirked, stood up, and walked around the room like a tiger yet to accept his cage. I've never believed in fate. You have a right not to. And more importantly, what do you mean by that? What is our fate? Nobody can know that beforehand. I don't like hearing that from you. I'd expect it from anyone but you. Why is that? Kagome finally seemed to have taken interest in our conversation. Because you've always fought against your circumstances, and now you sound as if you just resigned yourself to them. Well, maybe I have. I had nothing to say to that, and just paced faster. A few minutes passed like that. Fine, but then why don't you want to leave, since you've resigned yourself? Does it really matter where you await your destiny? Then it makes even less sense. If you really don't care, you could have met me halfway. In fact, I, of course, didn't believe that Kagome had suddenly stopped caring about everything, ready to accept the fact that nothing depended on her. Fate is full of surprises. She suddenly made a little smile. Even if it is, does it matter where you wait for those surprises? Take Kobayashi-jun. A sudden thought came to my mind. There's no way he believed in fate when he was young and getting ahead by effort alone. What do you mean, effort? Kagome asked with surprise for some reason. Well, he founded Kobayashi Corporation and he didn't found anything. She interrupted me with clear disdain. He just married well and joined a wealthy family. It happens in Japan, you know. Her words shocked me. It wasn't even about the fact that I had been revealed an inconvenient truth about the almighty head of the corporation, but rather that I could be so mistaken about this man. It had really seemed to me at first glance that he was the kind of person that had achieved everything with his own strength. That's why. Your mother. Yes. She replied briefly and looked away. He couldn't acknowledge his affair with the maid, not to mention an illegitimate child, who would have lost everything. Isn't this fate, Nico-san? Kagome smiled sadly. Something rumbled outside in the distance. Thunderstorm at the end of October? Don't you think that's strange? She asked idly. Are you making fun of me? Not at all. It really is strange. What's strange is the way you're acting. I don't know how to deal with this. I'm a sensitive person. Have pity on me, I exclaimed, although I tried to show that it was irony rather than righteous anger. I'm not the one you should be asking for mercy. God, enough already. I stopped and kicked the bed angrily, which made the bouncy mattress jump into the air, while the blanket and pillows fell onto the floor. I'm going to find the limit of my patience, and congrats, here it is. Are you happy now? But Kagome kept looking out the window phlegmatically. They use that word so goddamn often. Phlegmatically. What the fuck does it mean? Like, I know what phlegm is. I know what phlegm is. The fuck is phlegmatic? Phlegmatically. Having an unemotional and stoically calm disposition. Okay, that makes sense. That definitely fits. But Jesus, it sounds like someone, like, the fucking translators for this just went digging in a thesaurus, saw phlegmatic, and just fucking rolled with it. I swear to God, the amount of times I've seen the word phlegmatically is insane. Like, yes. That definitely fits, the situation. It definitely fits the character. Phlegmatically, sure. Glad I learned something new today, but my God, there are other words you can use. Deliberately paying no attention to me. Then, I was about to say I'd leave Tokyo alone, but realized I wouldn't be able to do it. After everything we'd gone through, ditching Kagome after one fight would be cowardice. Damn right it would. Even if I didn't know why she was acting like this. If you don't want to talk, I'm going to bed. Naturally, I didn't manage to fall asleep easily. Kagome soon grabbed a towel and walked out of the room. A towel? I tossed and turned for a while. I didn't know for how long. But she wasn't returning. Christ, did she decide to make it into an onsen trip in there? The toilet and the bathroom in the hotel were quite modest, albeit clean. It's hard for me to imagine what Kagome could be doing there so long. Finally, I stood up and ran to the hallway and bumped right into Kagome. What is it, Niko-san? Where have you been for so long? After our fight, I didn't want to show that I was worried, but everything was obvious anyway. Washing myself. Go to sleep, it's late. Kagome didn't argue, nested on the side of the bed and turned towards the window. Naturally, sex was out of the question. Is she pregnant? Because I'm gonna just throw it out there. I looked at those CGs. Homie wasn't wearing no rubber, none of those CGs. And y'all both, young 18-year-olds, alright? Young and virile. Is that the right word I'm looking for? I don't think that's the word I'm looking for. I just want to double check with good old Google. Virile. Yeah. Virile. Typically used for men. Sure. It's a masculine term, but yeah. Having strength, energy, and a strong sex drive. Virility. Yeah. Y'all got that going on for you. We were climbing a low hill with sparse, stumpy trees. The sheath of my heavy sword hit against my legs, leaving deep, never-healing wounds on my skin. The sun was blazing, and my salty sweat ate at my eyes. My head was spinning, and yet again I felt I was about to faint. Just like I had a few hours ago, and a few hours before that. But each time I found the strength to move on, only hoping I'd be able to make it another 2 or 3 steps, then come what may. The commander said that we'd rest in a couple of miles, but he always said that, while in reality we had to walk from dawn to dusk. How were we supposed to fight barbarians after that? We weren't just waiting for our battle to the death, but marching straight toward it, leaving our homes thousands of leagues behind us. I had never been afraid of battles with the enemy, but the endless wait made its image grotesquely foreboding. In the end, in the north of Europe, people were just the same as us, with their families and customs, even if we saw many of those customs as barbarous. I'd left my parents and younger siblings at home. We spent half our lives serving the Emperor, at best. We had a much higher chance of dying in battle or ending up uselessly maimed, making those around us feel nothing but pity and disgust than returning home safe. I guess it wasn't the life I'd wanted as a child, but I wasn't lucky enough to be born a patrician, and I didn't get to choose my own fate. Night. A break. A fire. It was nice to finally take my sandals off. When my soles had grown so rough they lost almost all feeling. I rubbed them again and again, but the sensation was barely different from caressing a rock. An old soldier began to tell his never-ending story about fighting barbarians far in the northern forests. About tree fairies and other evil spirits that helped them. About mighty druids with their magic that entire legions were helpless against. The younger men laughed and made sarcastic remarks, so it was very strange to see him alive after facing such devilry. Those older and more experienced mostly said nothing, and calmly cleaned the weapons or fixed their armor. I belonged to the former group, and I didn't know what I'd feel after a dozen or two battles. The old soldier was probably telling his tales not out of a desire to brag, but rather guided by concern for his younger comrades in his own way. On the other hand, you couldn't say for sure he'd made it all up. Why did our gods, reigning on Mount Olympus, have more right to exist than the gods of the forest people? It often seemed to me that none of my comrades were bothered by such thoughts, and it was good that our commander didn't know about my regrettable affliction. A legionnaire must be steadfast and merciless to the enemies of Rome. I was instead merciless to myself. The familiar landscape gave way to hills, mountains, and endless forests dominated by conifer trees. It seemed to me that every tree hid a barbarian, the strength of his bow taut, ready to launch a deadly arrow in my direction. Our morale dropped dangerously low during the past few weeks. Cold, hungry, in a foreign land, we kept moving forward to collect taxes from tribes who didn't even recognize the authority of Rome. The senators getting fat in their marble palaces didn't have a clue how difficult the life of a legionnaire was. Even the animals here seemed to be against us. Simple hares appeared to be much more cunning, dexterous, and elusive than one could expect. They didn't just do everything they could to avoid being eaten. They seemed to be driven by a desire to starve us. Packs of wolves howled at night, sometimes somewhere in the distance, sometimes so close you'd think you only had to roll to the other side to come face to face with a ferocious predator. The forest itself felt like it was pressing down on our shoulders, as if we were in a different world with its own set of rules. A world that didn't welcome hostile outsiders. Dense foliage was everywhere, ready to whip our faces, sharp branches aimed for our eyes like spears. The ground beneath our feet was riddled with bumps, snags, potholes, and ravines, making every mile harder than the last. Even the birds sang differently here, spreading a grim song of war. At one point I had the feeling that our whole unit had already died and gone to the afterlife, but Karen was nowhere to be seen. Karen. However, even if we were still alive, it wouldn't be for long. It is foolish to hope for rescue as you go deeper into the monster's cave. I wanted to run, but I had long lost my sense of direction and any idea of where north and south were. The crowns of the trees high above glowed with a pale yellow light, like a canvas before the flickering frame of a candle. And the nights were so dark that you couldn't see your own outstretched hand. I didn't know how long we wandered these forests, but one day the endless columns of trees gave way to a small glade, behind which lay a lake ending in a sheer wall of stone that went up all the way to the tops of the tallest of pines. Many soldiers dropped their weapons and ran into the cool water, shouting rapidly to drink their fill and wash off the dirt and fatigue. Paying no attention to the commander's exclaims. Something stopped me from doing the same. The smooth, transparent, lifeless surface resembled the lid of a coffin. There wasn't a single fish swimming in the lake. You couldn't see any plants or even stones under the water, although the bottom itself seemed to be unreasonably far below. Once most of my comrades were in the water, a shadow suddenly came over the forest. The birds went silent. Even the wind died down, as if someone had shut all the windows in a house. I realized that it was the end, but the darkness that came didn't bring any fear, terror, or pain, only an endless, emotionless emptiness. Not just the feeling of the end, but the denial of even the beginning, of the very fact of your existence. One who never lived cannot die. That which never existed cannot give rise to an intelligent being able to attempt to describe that non-existence. The world seemed to have one of its own dimensions cut away, becoming flat, devoid of any volume or perspective. And just as in the world without volume, there is no concept of height. In emptiness, there is no concept of consciousness to be aware of it. Okay, my God, what a dream, my dude. Sweet Christ. I snapped awake in cold sweat, jumped off the bed, desperately gasping for air. It felt like I was choking, that somebody had drained all the oxygen out of the room, and only an asphyxiating gas was getting into my lungs. I ran to the window and snatched the curtain aside. The sun was rising over Tokyo. Only then did I realize that it was nothing but a nightmare. But it felt more real than any dream I've had in my 18 years of life. Maybe it was a memory from a previous life, where I'd been a Roman legionnaire who died somewhere in the forests of northern Europe. No, that's nonsense. I smirked under my breath, but my heart was still racing, reminding me that the theory was no worse than any other. Besides, the bed was empty. Apparently Kagome had already woken up. Couldn't come to my senses after that weird dream. I've always believed that it was stupid to try and explain the working of a sleeping brain from the logic and viewpoint of the waking mind. But you can laugh at the supernatural all you want until you face it yourself. I walked out to the street and bought a bun and a soda from a vending machine. Then I walked around the hotel, hoping to meet Kagome, but to no avail. On Saturday morning, there were fewer people on the street than on weekdays, and it scared me a little. Every person I met seemed to be watching me suspiciously, as if I looked wrong. Time passed, but Kagome still hadn't returned. I paced back and forth across the room, worried. Only then did I notice the glass ball staying right in the middle of the table. How did she manage to bring it with her? Kagome only had a small bag. I discovered a piece of paper carefully folded under the ball. Niko-san, I can't take it anymore. You're in danger every second you spend with me. I'll handle everything myself. Please try to forget me. I don't think it'll be too difficult. Fuck. I tore my eyes away from the note, turned my head a few times and blinked. No, it wasn't another dream. I read the note again, but still couldn't quite grasp the meaning of it. The words refused to form sentences, carrying only shreds of meaning. If it hadn't been Kagome writing this, I would have thought it was a prank. I'd get all scared, start running around the hotel, panicking. And then a door would open and Kagome would be standing there with a snide smirk on her face. But I knew that wouldn't happen. The handwriting was confident, steady. It clearly wasn't a spontaneous decision. And that snow globe. Was it an accident that she left it there? Or as a sign? A symbol? Had Kagome been planning to do this from the very beginning? I grabbed the snow globe and swung as hard as I could, ready to break it against the wall. But then I froze and still let my hand drop limply by my side. It could be the only thing I had left of Kagome. It was too early to despair. I didn't know what she was going to do, but I at least knew where she would go. No matter what happened with our relationship, Kagome would never abandon her grandfather. I ran out of the hotel and sprinted in the direction of my house. Running there was quicker than taking a train. My house didn't seem to have changed at all in that time. Well, why would it? Only a month had passed. I groped for the keys in my pocket with tensed fingers. Well, God willing. Maruki-san! Carefully opened the door and walked inside on tiptoes. My shoes were the only ones in the hall, and the phone stand was covered with a thick layer of dust. Apparently the old man had been bothering to clean, though I could hardly blame him. There was no one in the kitchen either, or in any of the other rooms. The fridge was empty, and it generally seemed like no one had lived here the entire month. How could that be? Kyosuke had told me he was living with Maruki-san regularly. We'd met him yesterday ourselves, and a bit before that, Kagome had called him from a payphone. I sank powerlessly to the floor next to the kotatsu, and following an old habit, bypassing my conscious mind, completely switched on the TV. Saturday morning shows seemed even more vulgar to me than usual. Then I remembered Kyosuke again, ran to the hall and picked up the receiver with such force that particles of dust flew all over the place. Hello? Kyosuke replied in a sleepy voice. It's me. No, I need to know where Maruki-san is. He didn't respond immediately and then said in a very cautious tone, Nick, is that you? Where are you calling from? What does it matter? I'm calling from home. I decided to check whether my old house was still standing or it started to fall apart. Thought I'd have a cup of tea with Maruki-san since he's temporarily staying at my place. My sarcasm sounded evil, and I grew angrier with every word. Can you imagine the dilemma I'm facing? It turns out he isn't here. The fridge could starve a cockroach to death. Everything is covered in a meter-thick layer of dust. If I didn't know you've been visiting Maruki-san regularly, I'd think that... What would I think, Kyosuke? Nick, calm down. I could clearly tell he was scared, even though we were divided by kilometers of wires. Calm down? Is there a reason to worry I don't know about? Nick, you see, I said that'd be better for you. For both of you. For you and Mura-san, too. Who's they? I asked coldly, not even particularly surprised. Some people. I don't know for sure. I told you whatever they asked me to on the phone. Nick, I swear, I didn't want to deceive you, but you see, it all worked out fine in the end. Worked out? I scoffed and hung up. What a friend. God damn it, Kyosuke. Of course I had no right to blame Kyosuke. The corporation could be threatening him and his family. In the end, everyone places the safety of themselves and their loved ones above everything else. So what was going on then? Kobayashi Jun had known where we were hiding all along. Then why the theatrics with the hotel raid? But all those questions seemed deeply peripheral. The most important was that I'd lost the girl I loved. I'd lost her in the worst way possible. She left me. Had she stopped believing I'd be able to protect her, convinced herself that we needed to break up for the sake of my safety? The second option sounded even worse. When you do something for another person without even asking if they need or want you to, usually ends in disaster. How many times had I made that mistake? And Kagome was much more persistent than me. If she decided something, it was that way for a lifetime. Suddenly I was overcome by primal fear. I feel like I hadn't just lost someone I loved, but that my very existence was in danger. Not because of Kobayashi Jun and his corporation, no. It was something formless, no shape or mass. Something soulless and non-existent, the epitome of nothingness, the primal fear from my nightmare. I started pacing around the kitchen. There was much more space here than in the hotel room, but monotonous circular motion would hardly solve my problems. Then someone rang the doorbell. It sounded somewhat casual and brief, as if I hadn't left the house for a month, Irina. Was it a mailman, a neighbor, a salesman? While I'd been hiding in that mining village, life continued as usual in Tokyo. Every day people had any idea that inside that old home, a little man with a broken heart was shaking in fear. But I expected it to be her. I did. Irina stood at the entrance with the usual expression of arrogant superiority. What is it, Nikolai? Surprised? I am. I moved aside, inviting her to come in. Irina sat behind the table and casually crossed her legs. Pretty lonely at your place, huh? As usual. Is that so? Well, maybe you're right. Why are you here? I sat across from her and gave her an intense look. Seems like kidnapping Kobayashi's granddaughter didn't quite work out, so you chose the other one instead. You know that too. We only found out recently while looking into the strange behavior of Kobayashi Corporation regarding you and your girlfriend. But you don't know yet that... I caught myself. Kagome had left only this morning, so they probably didn't know we were no longer together. What? Irina squinted, leaning on the table as if trying to take a closer look at my face. And she won't get anything from Kagome. Where is she, by the way? I could feel I'd failed already. Should pick my words carefully. What does it matter? You need her to make demands of Kobayashi Jun, right? If that's the case, don't bother. Here's about Ellie more than her. Kagome had picked the perfect moment to leave, as it turned out. 2 hours later, and she could have ended up in KGB's hands. Why do you immediately think so badly of me? What? Do you want to help us? Perhaps. She smiled slyly. And what will we need to do for it? How unusual. I see you're all business today. She slowly turned her head from side to side, as if just looking around, not searching for anything in particular. So where's Yumura-san, if I may ask? She went shopping. I responded, trying to keep my cool. Then I'll wait for her here. Kagome knows nothing. She never even met Kobayashi Jun. Oh, is that so? Yes, it is. I snapped back quite rudely, but Irina didn't react to it. If I want to. Suddenly felt it uncomfortable to sit in the same spot, so I stood up and walked around the kitchen. I just want to live with her in Tokyo, without constant surveillance from the corporation and whatever other well-meaning parties. I looked at her meaningfully. How can you help me with that? Nikolai, not all our desires are destined to come true. It's time for you to worry about yourself, don't you think? What do you mean? You must have realized already that it isn't safe for you to stay in this country. I virtually boiled up with anger inside, managed to remain calm on the surface with a titanic effort. I wasn't ready to let Kagome go yet. She definitely wasn't ready to leave Japan. I presumed that to find myself somewhere safe, I'd have to work for you. I realize that's useless to appeal to your sense of patriotism, so let's say you'll work for me personally. So what's your personal offer? Oh, for now, just to wait for your girlfriend to finish her shopping. I hemmed and returned to the table, slowly lowered myself into the chair and took a challenging pose. That'll take a while. What are you talking about? Finally, a mote of discontent crossed Irina's face. I don't know where Kagome is now. I don't think she'll be back. And if she did return, as I said, she's of no use to you. Let me decide that myself, please. She said slowly with a threat in her voice. Be my guest. I'm in no hurry. I've got a whole day ahead, and then another one, and another one after that. How untimely. She grit her teeth. What is? That the urges from under your belt threaten my plans. Well, excuse me. I smirked. Where is she then? It was clear that Irina was aggravated, but the Soviet intelligence agent clearly wasn't going to give up so easily. I'd like to know as well. I'm telling you, let's wait for Kagome together. You're behaving boldly for someone in your position. For someone who's got nothing to lose. Oh, Nikolai, you can't even imagine how many reasons you can find to cling to life when death appears near. Is that a threat? She scoffed, stood up, and looked around again as if she'd forgotten something. This conversation isn't over. You know where to find me.